3 days ago, Lamine Yamal scored a bicycle kick at 18 years old, and tonight he just scored again in the Champions League, cementing his status as the best right winger in world football. What nobody's telling you is that he's so good he's breaking La Liga, and that's becoming a serious problem. By the end of this video, you'll understand why Spanish football can't handle their biggest talent and what it means for his future. January 25th, 2026, brought a scissor kick against Real Oviedo that left his Barcelona teammates speechless, with Rafinha admitting it was spectacular, and Pau Cubarsí confessing he'd never even seen Yamal score a bicycle kick in training. Tonight against Copenhagen in the Champions League, he scored again in the 60th minute as Barcelona won 4-1. An 18-year-old scoring in back-to-back matches with bicycle kicks and crucial Champions League goals is just the latest example of why La Liga faces a problem they've never encountered before. The numbers don't lie. Understanding Yamal's dominance requires looking at what he's done in the last 72 hours alone, and then zooming out to see the bigger picture that nobody's talking about. Saturday, against Oviedo, Yamal scores a bicycle kick in the 73rd minute and Barcelona win 3-1. Wednesday night against Copenhagen in the Champions League, he scores in the 61st minute, and Barcelona dominates with 71% possession, 28 shots to 7, and 92% passing accuracy. 2 matches, 2 goals, 2 wins, and the kid doing this on Europe's biggest stages just turned 18. The 2025-26 season shows Yamal continuing to rack up goal contributions at an elite rate for someone his age. But last season, in 2024-25, brought the explosion. 18 goals and 21 assists in La Liga alone, over 50 appearances across all competitions, and Barcelona won the domestic treble with La Liga, Copa del Rey, and Supercopa de España, all landing in their trophy cabinet. That's 39 goal contributions in a single season at age 17. And if you think that's normal, you haven't been paying attention. Career totals through tonight's Champions League match show over 140 matches, played with goals and assists continuing to pile up. And his trophy cabinet holds 2 La Liga titles, 2 Supercopas de España, 1 Copa del Rey, and Euro 2024 with Spain. Multiple major trophies before turning 19 years old, and he's adding to that total every single week without showing any signs of slowing down. That bicycle kick against Oviedo came in the 73rd minute from a Dani Olmo cross, and Yamal struck it with his left foot near the penalty spot and sent it into the far bottom corner of a 3-0 win. When he was substituted in the 79th minute, Camp Nou gave him a standing ovation that lasted until he reached the bench. 3 days later in the Champions League, he's on the score sheet again in the 60th minute, helping Barcelona cruise to a 4-1 victory over Copenhagen, where they completely dominated every statistical category. These aren't just good numbers for an 18-year-old. They're elite production by any standard you want to measure. When you're scoring bicycle kicks in La Liga on Saturday and crucial Champions League goals on Tuesday, La Liga's problem becomes crystal clear. And it's this: he's operating at a level the league can barely contain. If you're enjoying this breakdown, hit that subscribe button, because we're just getting started. And trust me, this gets even crazier. The age records that change everything. What separates Yamal from every other talented young player isn't just his statistics, it's when he's achieving them, and on what stages he's doing it. Born July 13, 2007 in Esplugues de Llobregat, a suburb of Barcelona, to a Moroccan father and Equatorial Guinean mother, Yamal arrived at Barcelona's La Masia Academy at age 7 in 2014. His professional debut came April 29, 2023, at 15 years, 9 months, and 16 days old, making him Barcelona's youngest ever debutant and breaking a record that stood for over a century. Records kept falling after that like dominoes. Youngest player to reach 50 Barcelona appearances, then youngest to reach 100, youngest El Clasico goal scorer in history, youngest Copa del Rey goal scorer, and at Euro 2024, just 4 days before his 17th birthday, he became the youngest goal scorer in European Championship history and the youngest player to ever win the tournament. Euro 2024 performances earned him the Young Player of the Tournament award, and his curling strike against France in the semifinal, one goal of the tournament, which meant at 16 years old, he scored the best goal in an international tournament that included Cristiano Ronaldo, Kylian Mbappe, and every other elite player in Europe. Later that year, he won the Copa Trophy for Best Player Under 23, won it again in 2025, and the 2025 Ballon d'Or voting saw him finish second at age 18. Let that sink in for a second, because an 18-year-old finished runner-up for the Ballon d'Or, the sport's most prestigious individual award, and he's competing against players in their prime who've been doing this for a decade. Tonight's Champions League goal against Copenhagen adds another chapter to a record book that's already overflowing with achievements most players never reach in their entire careers. Barcelona records and La Liga records don't capture the full picture, because these are global football records that may never be broken. And here's the thing that should terrify La Liga. Lionel Messi didn't do this at 18, Cristiano Ronaldo didn't do this at 18, and even Kylian Mbappe, who won the World Cup at 19, wasn't scoring bicycle kicks in domestic leagues and following them up with Champions League goals 3 days later. La Liga's first problem emerges from having an 18-year-old who's already operating at a level the league has never seen before, and he's proving it in Europe's premier club competition while still getting better with every match he plays. When you compare him to the legends who came before, the gap becomes obvious because Messi at 18 was still developing in Frank Rijkaard's system. Ronaldo at 18 was doing stepovers at Sporting Lisbon, and Yamal at 18 is scoring bicycle kicks in La Liga and crucial Champions League goals in the same week while collecting trophies and breaking records that stood for decades. What this means for La Liga, why this becomes a problem instead of a celebration, is where things get complicated, and tonight's match against Copenhagen makes it crystal clear. Barcelona's entire tactical system revolves around Yamal playing right wing in Hansi Flick's setup. Tonight showed exactly why, with 71% possession, 663 passes at 92% accuracy, and 28 shots with 12 on target. Yamal is central to that dominance because he stretches defenses, creates space, provides goals, and makes everyone around him better. Barcelona looks like European champions when he's playing, but when he's not available, the drop-off becomes noticeable since the club doesn't have a backup option who can replicate what he provides. Playing back-to-back matches scoring in both represents exactly the kind of workload that creates the problem La Liga can't solve. Saturday in La Liga, Tuesday in Champions League, and this pattern repeats week after week. Every minute he plays increases injury risk, while every match he misses potentially costs Barcelona points, trapping the club between needing him on the pitch to compete for titles and needing to protect him from burnout. By age 18, Yamal had already played 130 professional matches, totaling over 8,000 minutes, more than double what Barcelona legends like Pedri, Gavi, and Andres Iniesta had played at the same age. Pedri played 49 matches by 18, Gavi played 60 matches, Iniesta played just 40 matches, and Yamal has played 130 matches while dealing with a chronic groin injury that medical experts say reduces his ability to move and shoot by 50%. Premier League clubs are watching performances like tonight's Champions League display, and they have money La Liga teams simply can't match. His market value sits at 166 million euros. Barcelona's contract with him runs through 2031 with a €1 billion release clause. But when clubs have the kind of money Premier League teams are throwing around, contracts can be negotiated and release clauses can be triggered. If Yamal decides he wants to test himself in the Premier League, where the competition is more physical, the money is significantly higher, and the global spotlight is brighter, La Liga loses their brightest star. Unlike losing Messi or Ronaldo after they'd spent a decade dominating the league, losing Yamal at 19 or 20 would mean La Liga never got to see his prime years. The Champions League factor. Tonight's match against Copenhagen reveals another dimension of La Liga's problem that makes it even more complicated. Barcelona secured direct round of 16 qualification with tonight's win, and Yamal scoring in the 60th minute of a 4-1 victory demonstrates he's not just dominating La Liga, but performing on the biggest club stage in world football. When Yamal scores a bicycle kick against Oviedo, critics can argue the opposition isn't good enough. But when he follows that up 3 days later with a goal in the Champions League, where Barcelona dominates Copenhagen, that argument falls apart. He's legitimately world-class against European competition that includes the best teams from England, Germany, Italy, and France. For an 18-year-old whose body is still developing, this workload over 3 days represents exactly the kind of stress that sports scientists warn about. Human bodies don't finish developing until the mid-20s, which means at 18, Yamal's bones, muscles, and connective tissues are still maturing and vulnerable to damage. History fills itself with young players who burst onto the scene early and either burned out or suffered career-altering injuries before reaching their prime. Michael Owen won the Ballon d'Or at 21, and injuries destroyed him by his late 20s. Alexandre Pato looked unstoppable at 19 and was done at the highest level by 25. And Barcelona knows this pattern all too well. Drop a like if you're seeing how insane this situation really is, because what comes next is even worse for La Liga. The bigger picture, zooming out from the last 3 days, reveals what this means for Spanish football, beyond just Barcelona and Yamal. When Messi and Ronaldo battled in El Clásico, La Liga sat at the center of the football world. When they left, viewership declined, TV revenue dropped, and the gap between La Liga and the Premier League widened into a chasm that keeps getting bigger every year. Yamal represents a chance to reverse that trend as an 18-year-old Spanish talent developed in Barcelona's academy, who could become the face of La Liga for the next decade. The nightmare scenario looms just as likely, though, because when you dominate Champions League matches at 18 years old, Premier League clubs start planning their offers and calculating how much money it'll take to pry you away from Spain. At 20 or 21 years old, he leaves for Manchester City, or Chelsea, or Liverpool, because they can offer double or triple what Barcelona pays, and La Liga loses another generational talent before they ever got to see his peak. The bicycle kick against Oviedo, followed by tonight's Champions League goal, perfectly encapsulates this problem. Both went viral with millions of views, but when an 18-year-old produces moments of magic against these levels of opposition, it raises the question La Liga doesn't want to answer. What happens when he's ready for an even bigger challenge than what Spanish football can offer? Barcelona currently sits top of La Liga with 52 points, just 1 point ahead of Real Madrid, and Yamal is the reason they're in that position. The dependency Barcelona has on an 18-year-old is both their greatest strength and their most dangerous weakness. And if Yamal leaves, the league loses its most marketable star and its best chance to compete with the Premier League for global attention. 18 years old with multiple major trophies, finished second in Ballon d'Or voting, scored a bicycle kick on Sunday, and scored in the Champions League on Wednesday describes Lamine Yamal as the most talented teenager in world football, and possibly the best right winger on the planet regardless of age. La Liga should be celebrating this, but instead, they're facing a problem with no easy solution that the last 3 days have made abundantly clear. Playing him in back-to-back matches risks injury and burnout that could end his career before it starts, while resting him risks losing those matches and the trophies that come with them. Holding on to him means competing financially with Premier League clubs who can offer significantly more money, but losing him means La Liga's global appeal takes another hit. Sunday's bicycle kick and tonight's Champions League goal look beautiful in highlight reels, but they highlight the mismatch at the heart of this problem. An 18-year-old shouldn't be doing this to professional defenders in both domestic and European competition. When a player outgrows their league before turning 19 while proving themselves in the Champions League simultaneously, history tells us they don't usually stick around. 3 days ago, Lamine Yamal scored a goal that got a standing ovation at Camp Nou. And tonight, he scored again, as Barcelona dominated Copenhagen 4-1. Somewhere in England, Premier League scouts were watching both matches, taking notes, calculating transfer fees, and planning their offers for when the time is right. That's La Liga's Lamine Yamal problem. They have him now, but for how much longer? And when he inevitably leaves for a bigger stage and bigger money, after proving he's ready for it with performances like tonight, what's left behind for Spanish football? La Liga has never faced this situation before with an 18-year-old this good, this soon, with this much attention, performing at this level in both domestic and European competition. They can't pay him what England can pay him. They can't protect him from the physical demands of elite football when he's playing twice a week with a chronic injury. And they can't guarantee he'll stay once the offers start coming. La Liga has a Lamine Yamal problem, where he's their biggest asset, and their biggest risk, their greatest talent, and their most likely loss. And in 2 years, when he's 20 years old, and choosing between staying at Barcelona or joining the Premier League, we'll find out if Spanish football can solve a problem they never saw coming until it was already too late.